That was the escape velocity that we needed. And yes, we developed a resilience brand, which is very acutely focused on hoppy American ales, and make no apology for that. But that was something where the creative process demanded that we showcase our brewers' skills, not just on lagers, but also on these styles. And from a business perspective, why wouldn't we do that?
And that was Jeff from Schilling Beer Company on this week's episode of Brew Roots.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brew Roots, where we tell the stories behind your favorite beer. This is Sound Guy Ryan, and joining me today is Matt.
Yeah, Erica is on assignment. Well, I
Not
guess
really.
we could call it vacation.
It's vacation.
Yeah, it's vacation.
Jealous.
Totally jealous.
Drinking beer on the beach without us.
Yeah, enjoying that South Shore beer scene.
Which is killing it.
Yes. Yeah, she was at Stellwagen this weekend at Cape Cod Brewery, and I think today she's at like a number of other breweries.
Yeah, she says she wanted to go to like 3 or 4 others.
Oh, man, I'm
Yep.
so jealous.
I'm super jealous.
Yeah. But we have an awesome episode lined up for you today. I know you guys heard the intro, but who do we have this week?
We got Schilling Beer Co.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because last week we had East Brother Beer Co.
Yep. In
on the
Cali.
left coast.
Yep.
Making awesome pilsners and lagers. And we have people on our coast.
Killing it on the Pilsners and Lagers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited because last week's episode was like so fun, and getting to drink that beer from California was great. And then going into my fridge today and getting a Schilling beer, I was like, yes.
I think you and I always have a Schilling beer, at least one.
Yes, I always have
And,
Schilling and I always have Notch. And
Yeah.
most of the time I have Sylvaticus if I'm lucky.
Yeah, it
doesn't last very long if I have Sylvaticus,
that's just it. Is like any of these, great lagers, you just don't have them very long because that's like the first beer I always grab out of the fridge.
That's correct.
Always. But yeah, we're super excited to give you this interview. We had a blast. This, I believe, was the last interview of the day.
Yeah, and this was the last interview that we did pre-COVID.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a week after this interview, everything shut down.
Everything shut down.
Yeah, everything was starting to kind of blow up in the news about COVID at this point. We didn't really want to bring it up at all in this interview because we didn't really know what was going to happen.
Yeah, I think the assumption at that point was everything was going to be better in 2 weeks. And
yeah, exactly.
Guess not.
Yeah. So that's why we don't mention it in this episode. But if you do want to get up to date with what they're doing in their tap room, definitely go to their website and social media to check that out.
That's correct. Yeah, we have some awesome beer news thanks to our friends, the Mass Brew Bros, and specifically the eco-friendly beer drinker. Our friend Rob is part of both groups, and we wanted to share this one because this one's pretty important, and I think it's pretty cool. But what's the article about this week, Ryan?
Basically, the gist of it is just how to be more eco-friendly when you're consuming beer by yourself or with your friends, at home or out.
Yeah, so the eco-friendly beer drinker gave us 8 ways beer drinkers can make eco-friendly choices. So, Ryan, what do you think one of those eco-friendly choices could be?
Well, I would say the most obvious one is to recycle your cans and bottles.
Yeah.
And something along with that I remember reading back a while ago, and it could have been from Rob, is to peel off your vinyl labels off of the bottles and cans. And I would think a creative way of using those vinyl labels that I've seen a lot of people do is like making, a wall or putting them on your fridge or making like a table and like coating it so you have a really cool like beer label table or something. And it's just a way to cut back on waste,
Absolutely. The reusability factor is huge in that. Yeah, so if you guys want to get more information, we are going to leave a link to that below. So we'll leave a link for the Mass Brew Bros because they have awesome news, and I can't stress enough to make sure you go follow their page as well. And follow Eco-Friendly Beer Drinker because that's some really cool stuff, and it's really important stuff as well. So, links below. And, what do we have next, Ryan?
So we have some pretty cool Pink Boots news. Erica isn't here, but she mentioned it last week, and that is Pink Boots is having their first meeting since COVID, and it is going to be virtual, and it is with the Honey Board and Trillium.
That's right. So Trillium and the Honey Board brewed a beer together, and that kind of resulted in some free honey kits and this collab beer and this seminar for Pink Boots, which is pretty cool. So you can join Keith Sees and Allison Wiebel of the National Honey Board in an informative and educational and fun session about honey, honeybees, and brewing with honey. I do apologize if I butchered their their last names, but I'm sure Keith and Allison are going to do an awesome seminar. And bees are really, really important. So that seminar starts at 1 p.m. on September 17th. And it does say that you have to register by September 10th. I do realize that it's September 11th when this episode gets released. So you might be able to sneak in. I don't know, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
And I can't stress this enough is like, I'm so jealous of all of these Pink Boots opportunities, like these seminars and the scholarships. If you're a woman in the beer industry, please take advantage of all of this. You know,
There's so much knowledge to be
so much. Like, I would love to just sit and learn about this stuff. You know, like me getting into brewing.
Yeah.
It just seems like it would be a blast.
And we're really lucky because we get a lot of our knowledge from Erica, and she gets a lot of that knowledge from Pink Boots and working in the industry. So, like, yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and before we get to the episode this week, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Small Pond Studios for making our podcast sound as amazing as possible.
And if you're anyone who needs to be recorded, I don't care if you're a poetry artist, a band, a podcast, doesn't matter what it is, go to smallpondstudios.io to reach out.
That's right. So we'll catch you guys on the outro. But before further ado, cheers. So, Erica and Ryan, we are up here in Littleton, New Hampshire. My only experience with Littleton, New Hampshire is I bought a banjo with the full expectation of learning how to play said banjo. So I bought one that was...
And then what did you do with this banjo?
Oh, I sold it and bought a boat, which is even worse of an investment. But I enjoy the boat more than I enjoyed the banjo. Funny story, though, is I sold the banjo for more money than I bought it. And I can say I'm a professional musician because, like, I made some money off of playing the banjo like 4 times. So,
yeah.
And if you couldn't hear by everyone's laugh, we are obviously here at Schilling.
Oh, obviously, yes.
We're here with Jeff and John. Thanks for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks, we're honored.
Yeah, we were talking off air. We're excited to do this because Ryan's a recovering hophead. We call him a recovering hophead.
Yeah.
And we've turned him to the loggers, and he loves your stuff, and I love your stuff. Erica loves your stuff. So we're excited to talk to you guys and talk loggers, pilsners.
Excited to talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like this.
Yeah. So we start every episode getting to know you a little bit, and we want to know what your first memory of beer was
And your
your
roles
role at the brewery.
Oh, geez.
Wow. Probably more appropriate to talk about my first professional memory of beer, or our first acceptable memory of beer, than our first memory of beer.
Whatever
works for you,
That's
yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, sitting on my dad's lap, licking the foam off of Stroh's doesn't count, but that is my first memory.
Yeah.
Nice,
Truth be told.
nice.
I think really the most seminal memory that I have of beer is visiting John in Germany. This would have been back in the mid-'90s when John was studying in Hamburg. And I flew over, and we did a grand tour of more or less the best lager-producing regions in the continent. And that's stretching from northern Germany all the way down through Bavaria, over into the Czech Republic. And that more or less set in motion what you see now as Schilling. And it was the experiences tied in with the friendship, tied in with the scenery, the natural environment of the Alps, and then looking at the antiquity of Prague and enjoying beer in those environments. That all, in summary, created a lager drinking experience that is phenomenal, and we wanted to replicate parts of that here.
Yeah, I would actually echo that. My love for beer really came from my first days in northern Germany and having a chance to drink Pilsner, German Pilsner there. As Jeff said, we did some touring, but going from having crummy macro, watered down macro beer in college that was probably not very well handled, and
John, you drank beer in college. I didn't.
right. To having full flavored all malt beer was a
Drastically
real
different.
eye opener. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it led me later. So after coming home after a year of study in Germany, getting back in the U.S. and in the mid '90s and immediately going to a local bottle shop and not finding anything I wanted
Oh,
to
that
drink.
must have sucked so
Yeah.
bad. In your respected roles here at the brewery.
Yeah, we're both co-founders. I'm the CEO, and John's the head of our brewery operations.
Absolutely. So, can we talk about how did your paths converge? How long have you guys known each other?
Go ahead, Jeff.
What is it, 37 years? Something like that?
Do you have an exact date?
You know,
We celebrate it every year.
well, John
Day.
John has a fond memory of an outfit that I wore to baseball camp in 7th grade. He reminds me of that pretty regularly. But yeah, so John and I met at.
Can we hear about it? No.
That's
Well, all I'll say is that the concept of heat shorts should not have been a thing.
Nice.
tie-dyed shorts.
Love it.
Kind of below the knee.
Yeah.
They're pretty sweet.
Yeah.
This was 1987, I think, too. So
I'm sure it was cool then.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
We're dating ourselves a little bit, but no, I mean, John and I have been best friends for many, many years, and we grew up together, and we went to college together, and conceived of this dream of opening up a brewery together. Our families took us in different areas during our mid-20s, early 30s. John lived in Europe. I was in the UK, moved to DC, and then our paths were able to more or less reunite back up here in the North Country.
And over beer almost, right?
Over beer.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's right.
That's the uniting force, really. What was life like before Schilling? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so prior to Schilling, I had a career in education. Taught chemistry, was a coach for many, many years, coached baseball and softball. And as Jeff said, lived in Europe for many years. Worked at a boarding school in Salzburg, Austria for 7 years. And in fact, it was Jeff and his family coming to this area first that was the family connection for us to come back to this part of the U.S.
Yeah.
We decided we're going to, not settle in Europe for the long haul, even though we had fantastic years there. And we just decided it was time to move back to the U.S., be a little closer to family. And our family still all lives in the Midwest, but having Jeff and Monica and their family here close by, we decided to come this way. Also, the mountains became really important for us. So living in Austria, we decided that this was a really nice place to check out.
Yep.
Compared to growing up in flatland Midwest.
Yeah. What's home for you guys, if you mind me asking?
I live just outside of Littleton,
Okay. No, I mean,
Originally?
where'd you guys grow up?
Traverse City, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the beer scene there growing up, I'm sure, was not anything other than the yellow fizzy stuff that your dad would drink.
I don't know that in the mid '80s the beer scene was much of anything anywhere at that point in time. But
Yeah, no, I think there were a couple of brew pubs that went in that I remember when we were in high school and thinking that was fairly novel. And actually, they're still in town, but we I would say beer experience when we were coming out of high school, going into college was yellow and fizzy.
Yeah.
Jeff, what was your previous life like?
so I worked in international relations with a focus on terrorism.
Okay.
And so I did that for
You're the first one to tell us that.
Yeah, that is the first time we've heard that one.
definitely a career path that diverged. But I find it so gratifying now that we're actually making a product that you can sit there and enjoy and taste and discuss with people rather than debating policy or whatever else. And so, so I worked in D.C., worked in the UK, and now I'm here.
Now you're here.
Very cool.
Obviously, it wasn't just a text message between you guys to say, or an email, hey, you want to open a brewery? How long was the planning phase, and when did it really become less of a pipe dream and more of a reality?
Yeah, so I can speak to that because I would say out of the two of us, I was much less interested in the business at first. Being the being the brewer. As I said, I started brewing in mid late '90s. I started home brewing basically to be able to drink the beer that I wanted to drink
Yeah.
that I couldn't get
find.
here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that turned into, when we moved back to the U.S. especially, then it really sort of turned up in the early mid-2000s, turned up the heat on developing a brewery at home, built a fairly sophisticated pilot brewery in my basement. My wife's a lovely lady.
To put up with all that, right?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
But yeah, we got to the point where we're producing enough, or I was producing enough beer that we couldn't get through
Just
the
give it all
kegs of
away.
beer. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So 2010, I think we started talking more seriously about what it could look like. And and I'm grateful, Jeff, and especially Jeff, but Jeff and my other partners, Jeff's brothers, Matt and Stu, and their dad, Bruce, approached me. I think we really started talking nuts and bolts in 2012. Early 2012, we probably spent about a year in demographic studies and looking at real estate, and sort of testing the landscape around here. And originally, we thought we would have a Vermont brewery.
Yeah.
I lived and still live in St. Johnsbury, Vermont.
Cool.
And we thought we'd put it close to my place in St. Jay. St. Jay wasn't ready to support a brewery of what we were dreaming about.
Yeah.
They must be kicking themselves now. You don't have to comment on that, but
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it wasn't that the town wasn't. We had plenty of support from friends. We just didn't have the demographics. The volume
Enough people.
was not there, and Littleton was already a very vibrant business community.
Yeah.
And we decided at that point we're going to focus our attention here in town, and very, very glad we did. But opened in late fall of 2013 after about a year of renovations and tweaking of our business plan. And I don't think we opened quite on a shoestring, but it was maybe like a bootlace.
Kinda close. Yeah.
An elongated hiking bootlace.
Yeah.
is an appropriate description.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that we certainly had endeavored back in the early 2000s to maybe do something like this someday, and that was where I think that discussion stopped. We went to grad school, and kind of
Life
life
Family,
catches
children,
up, and you have kids and you do these things. But when John moved back in 2006 or 7, 6. That's really, I think, when we started talking a little bit more seriously, as John alluded to, and our wives Monica and Shannon were very patient during that time. We had a lot of great sessions in the green room, which is the equivalent of John's basement.
Awesome.
And so there was a green pleather couch down there where I would sleep. We'd go over and have these brew sessions.
Right.
That also,
Sleep it off.
Yeah, they included a few beers.
Yep.
And we had fun.
That's awesome.
Fortunately, now John has his basement back and waxes skis there, and we have a 5-vessel 20-barrel system instead of your whatever that was. So that's
Exactly.
good.
Yeah, I built all the equipment too. It was one of those, I loved thinking about the fluid dynamics of how everything worked and the pumping.
the ingenuity of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that for me actually, to a great extent, was a almost as interesting to me as brewing itself was the innovation and the tech behind it. And as Jeff said, now we had the chance to custom build our production brew house.
That must have been pretty cool for you.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
John, I think you're minimizing my technical contribution to this.
Yeah, pumps for Jeff were fans, and
I'm a social
That's
scientist.
cool.
I have nothing to contribute whatsoever in terms of the fluid dynamics of our processes.
Yeah.
It's all right.
That's fine.
We have a lot of homebrewers who listen to the podcast, and oftentimes I think homebrewers are unfairly given false information
Maybe.
about their homebrew. How did you get honest feedback about your homebrew to improve to what we're drinking today?
well, I think
I have a world-class palate. So I just
Definitely.
You just know your shit.
I think honestly, having lived in Europe so long and really having spent the better part of a decade there, I was the probably the harshest critic of what I was brewing.
So you relied on your own palate.
Yeah, I think I did. And yeah, of course, you're right. All home brewers, they give their friends beer, and hey, it's free beer.
Oh, this is great. You should go pro.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my fairly methodical approach to things. I think these guys maybe got bored after a while. I think I spent like an entire year
Nitpicking the same recipe,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I brewed Kolsch and Altbier for at least 12 months.
Yeah.
And those are still, some of the favorite styles for me. I love those. I love those styles. But yeah, I spent a lot of time brewing those and being my own harshest critic. I didn't enter beers into competitions very often. I just I trusted my own catalog
Yeah.
of what I had over the years.
Did you ever get any education for brewing beer or anything when you were in Europe?
So never. I mean, I think I gave myself an education.
Yeah.
So my library is pretty robust.
Well, you're a chemist, and so that counts for something.
Right. No, of course. But some people go to like brewing school
Yeah,
or whatever,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So awesome. That's cool.
And I respect the formal education pathway very, very much. I think it's if I were to do it again, I think I could look back and see an alternate pathway that could have taken me through Weinstefan or one of the great schools in Germany or Belgium even. But I didn't have that option, so I gave myself the education.
You made it work.
I obviously I'm fluent in German, and so I did the German texts and the So I have a robust library.
Late 90s, ease of access to information wasn't there. The internet was in its infancy. So relying on your palate for something that you might have tried a year, 2, 3, were you taking notes in Germany knowing that this was something that you were going to do, or you were just remembering?
Yeah, it was mostly from memory, to be honest. And that might sound a little strange, but I think I think I was I may not have taken formal notes, but I think it was very attentive to what I was drinking. And I think on our staff, when I look at our staff in our production brewery right now, I think Chris, who's our head brewer, and I think we both have been blessed with the ability to pick out what we're tasting. And I get the honor of judging at European Beer Star every year. I think that's
cool.
just from a lot of experience. I think that maybe that says I've had a lot of beer over the years. No, but I also studied the sensory analysis as well. So I mean, I've spent a lot of time fine-tuning what I'm good at tasting for. Diacetyl for me, I can smell it off of the table from a foot away.
Yep.
I don't pick up oxidation quite as well as I'd like, but
But you've honed that skill over
but
the
I've
year.
honed that skill. And the other thing is I would not consider myself to be a terribly artistic person outside of beer. Beer makes a lot of sense to me. And so being able to translate raw materials into the glass, so design to glass, just makes ultimate sense to me. So as far as lagers are concerned, those traditional beers, and being able to create what I have in my mind, I think that happens to be something I was gifted with.
It's
You want me
definitely a
to draw?
skill.
You want me to draw something? Forget it. But beer makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think your experience living in Europe for the better part of a decade was also
That's
pretty
pretty
important.
huge.
And I mean, there was a lot of imprint certainly from your experience there and teaching science over there and just general life daily.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I know you and I regularly enjoyed some very good beers when we were there.
This is true.
That's awesome.
This has been a great interview so far, but before we continue, let's take a quick break, crack open a fresh beer, and hear a quick word from our sponsors.
Did you know that your favorite Massachusetts breweries use hops from a local family-owned hop farm right here in Massachusetts?
Our friends over at 4 Star Farms are there for you whether you're a commercial brewery or a small batch home brewer.
Make sure to head over to their website today and get your hands on some of the best and freshest hops available locally. Cheers.
At our local homebrew shop, Beer and Wine Hobby, you can get everything you need to make beer, wine, cider, and cheese.
Not sure where to start? The knowledgeable staff at Beer and Wine Hobby are there to help. Beer and Wine Hobby is family owned and located in Danvers, Massachusetts. To learn more about them, check out their website, www.beer-wine.com.
Don't forget to use our promo code Brew Roots for 10% off your online order today. Cheers.
And now back to Jeff and John.
When you're coming up with a business plan in 2013, and we're just starting the haze craze at that point, and John says
You weren't going in that direction.
John says, I want to just do lagers, or if that was the business plan, what did people say you're crazy or you're never going to succeed?
At that point in time, I mean, and still today, it didn't matter. I mean, we were doing the business.
I'd like to hear that, yeah.
We were doing the business that we set out to do, and that was to brew progressive European-inspired beers.
Were you scared at all? Were you concerned?
Not in the least.
That's awesome.
I'll be honest, because
Yeah.
I knew that, I think there's something so intuitive about knowing that when you're gifted in a certain area and you've carved out a niche, that you can continue to drive that, and success will follow. It won't be easy, it won't be immediate,
Yep.
but it's going to follow if you're true to who you are. And so that was a very, very important part of our inertia. That was the escape velocity that we needed. And yes, we developed a resilience brand,
Yep.
which is very acutely focused on hoppy American ales,
Yep.
and make no apology for that. But that was something where the creative process demanded that we showcase our brewers' skills, not just on lagers, but also on these styles. And from a business perspective, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
Because in so many ways, that process then and there allowed us to continue to be Schilling. And I think that, I know John and I are both very, very happy with where that project, where and how it's developed.
For sure.
And I think people are now kind of, they're understanding the distinction between resilience and Schilling beer.
Do you think people in 2020 are actually shifting towards the, I hate to say simple beers, but people look at lagers, pilsners as beers that you can enjoy and clean?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because it's obviously, I think we're bucking in the U.S. We're bucking decades of drinking American lager. And so I think most people have been turned to craft through big flavor, which differentiates itself hugely.
Yeah, from the big guys.
Right.
Yep.
And I have, to be honest, I think it's fair to say I have the utmost respect for those breweries. In many ways, they have some of the best brewers in the world.
The fact that you can have a consisent product from a can to a
From
bottle to a
multiple
draft.
breweries.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
So I, as a brewer, I never talk poorly about what it is that they do and the talent that they have. You might not care for the final product in the glass. That might not be your favorite style.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people buck that trend, and so big flavors are what they're looking for.
Right.
And so for them, I think that's craft. But I look at, you go to Germany, where craft beer actually is about 0.5% of the market.
Yeah.
It's incredibly small.
Wow.
And you can't help but ask the question why, and the answer is really pretty easy. The beer quality is insanely good.
Yeah.
Right. So one of my favorite breweries in Germany is Bitburg, and the Bitburger Pils is absolutely fantastic. And same thing. It's the same every single time. Really, really high quality. Anyway, I'm a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I think coming back to it, if you look at the tradition over the decades and beyond, they pair well with food. They're highly enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think people probably sample a beer and they develop their opinion on whether they like the flavors, the aroma, the appearance within the first sip. Mm-hmm. And then they're mostly focused on, or I would hope,
Right.
they're focused on the social aspect
Yeah.
of their outing
Yeah.
and sitting together. And the beer becomes part of the experience, but in a lot of ways it's background. And so for me, a well-formulated and brewed lager should ultimately
Kind of complement the
it should
situation,
complement
right?
your food. It should complement
Yeah.
the social situation, and it shouldn't be something you have to think too hard about. You like it,
Yeah.
and it's something you enjoy drinking, and so there are people who think, oh, this is a yellow beer.
Yeah. Add a marker to that, Ryan. That's going in.
Right,
That's
right.
out.
Yeah.
And I think that John's synopsis of why we brew lagers, why that's the central part of what Schilling is, so well captures the social dynamic of beer drinking and enjoyment for us.
For sure.
Because you're remembering the experience, and that's something that we work very hard and very intentionally on here at Schilling. We're not simply a brewery that's making good beer. We're a brewery that's developing these products within a certain context, within a certain place, that's to be enjoyed in a certain way with certain people that you care about, and hence the narrative on the back of our cans, and it says more or less that.
Yeah.
And so that's really born of a deep place for us when it comes to thinking about the styles that we produce.
Yeah. You guys are in New Hampshire, obviously, surrounded by states that have Allagash, Trillium, Treehouse, Alchemist. And you guys are really kind of the marquee for New Hampshire, in my opinion. I think you guys are the leading brewery in New Hampshire. How does New Hampshire stay relevant, surrounded by states that I just mentioned?
Yeah, New Hampshire has been handicapped for a long time because of many of its laws. And
Which is funny. Aren't you live free and die? What are the laws here?
That's right. There's a very strange juxtaposition between the ownership and enforcement and sale of alcohol that an agency has in the state with some of the other states.
Yeah.
It doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying that I'm out to dismantle the three-tiered system necessarily in our state. But it has proven itself to be a handicap to all artisan beverages in this state.
I'd agree.
And so we've obviously been forced to work within that.
Yeah.
And we've done that to the best of our ability. It certainly doesn't impact the nature of the styles
Right.
that we brew. It doesn't
Right.
impact us in that way. But I know New Hampshire has been historically a very challenging state to do business in. And you see it not just from the perspective of the licensees that are producing, but you see it from the distributors as well.
Look at Night Shift just entering the
Right.
state this year.
And our distributors, Vacation Land.
Yeah.
And they've done a phenomenal job. And we waited intentionally for Vacation Land to show up on the scene because we were not beholden to any of the other global forces that were
Right.
behind beer.
Right.
They have a strong independent ethos that really matched ours and a tremendous commitment to quality. So we held out distributing in the state until we had that correct partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we feel like they're a great match for us. And they have been.
It's interesting. You mentioned you held on distributing. A lot of people don't realize that you guys have been around as long
For
as you.
6
as, right,
years
yeah,
now, right? Yeah.
Almost 7 years.
yeah. Because
Great.
because of that, and it's just interesting to see what the growth. I don't want to say could have been, but I mean it's just interesting that the restrictions that, and we see it in Massachusetts too. I'm not saying that any state has a perfect system, but it's interesting to see how small businesses are encouraged to succeed, but are sometimes held down by government as well.
Well, interestingly, the first market in which we distributed our beer was Vermont.
Yeah.
Half of our staff are Vermonters. John's a Vermonter.
Yep.
And as John mentioned, we looked at multiple sites in Vermont. It's 7 minutes?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Just due west of us, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of the same. The Northeast Kingdom and the White Mountain regions and Great North Woods in New Hampshire are very tied.
Yeah.
And there's family on both sides of the river. It kind of feels like its own place. One of my children go to school over there, and so I'm there every day. And it's kind of part of your everyday life. So given the number of relationships that we have there and a great distribution partner in Vermont, Beer Shepherd, why wouldn't we start there?
Yeah.
Which is what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart move. There's really good beer drinkers, I feel like, in Vermont as well.
Yeah.
Educated.
They do a great job.
Yeah.
Let's stepping back a little bit. Where does the name Schilling come from? Was that your first
You
choice?
read my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, we have to ask that question.
Yeah, I think. Excuse me. The Schilling name, I think, made a lot of sense for two reasons. Jeff and Matt and Stu and Bruce. Well, the guys, their mom is a Schilling. That's the maternal name, and so when we were talking about what we would name the brewery, I looked at my experience living in Austria for so long. I thought, Schilling makes great sense.
It's a great name.
It was the current, it was the former currency and a family for these guys. So we decided it was just a well placed name.
Your
For
mom
sure.
must have been
very
pumped.
cool.
Well, she was, but it's funny because at that time when my granddad, Dr. R.J. Schilling, was still living, we offered up a number of founders slots. We had 30 places for what we call Founders Club members to join. There's no ownership stake in the brewery, but there's a singular fee, and then you have a lifetime of what you would call club benefits. And he bought membership places for my great-grandfather, for other ancestors that I have. And so it was really cool. And now he's gone. His picture's actually downstairs at the bar.
Yeah.
But it's really meaningful to be able to not only honor your family,
But have them a part of everything, right?
Yeah, for them to be part of it, but also, to speak to the styles of beer that we're passionate about brewing. And John's name's Lenzini, and so the Italians don't have the same level of heritage.
Yeah, not quite the same.
I'm Italian, so whatever. Whatever. Okay.
My Sicilian grandmother would have taken real issue with the fact that I studied German and then spent so much time in German-speaking Europe, and then I opened a German-style brewery with,
I could just
with
picture
my closest friends.
I could just picture my mother. Why are you naming it after me? That's dumb. Not to say it's dumb. It's not. It's awesome. Resilience. Let's talk about that brand just a little bit.
Yeah, where did that come from? Where did that start even, too?
So I mentioned the infancy of the resilience narrative and why we did that. The name we felt spoke to the nature of the North Country generally on both sides of the border. This region is marked by people that have endured the ebb and flow of life. They've weathered it very well through thick and thin, and we felt like this name was very fitting as a tribute to our region.
I'm just shocked it wasn't taken. Like that's the
Me too.
Or was it?
It wasn't.
Okay, cool.
It wasn't. So no. So that is our trademark property.
Yeah.
And it's something that is, beyond being fitting, it's something that we felt like had an enduring and even national quality to it, which is what you see in the symbol.
Yeah.
And for those people who don't know, what is the resilient side?
So, Resilience is very simply the side project of Schilling Beer Company focused on hoppy American ales.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is there I feel like I know the answer to this, but is there a style of beer that you guys just don't really touch or
Have no interest in?
Yeah.
Well, and not because we're not interested in it, but we don't brew many English style beers or British styles.
So no miles or anything?
Except right now,
There's always the exception.
we have an awesome ESB that's on its way out. That's coming out in the next few weeks.
Ryan's excited.
Brian could drink a straw out of the bright tank. He would, I think.
I would literally do that. I love
some casks
ESBs.
too,
I
Ryan.
love ESB.
Caspers.
But we don't. We've kind of focused on the Central European styles, the continental styles, and then of course Resilience hits the American ale styles, and occasionally, we'll experiment. We don't do. I don't think we've ever brewed a gruit. And that's not something we typically do, but in general, there's not a style that as brewers and brewery owners we dislike. I think we've chosen to focus on I think what's true and sort of authentic for us.
Yeah.
Now, John, there's another genre that you're leaving out: fruit bombs.
Ooh.
John. John needs to
Clears his throat.
expound. John needs to expound on fruit bombs a little bit.
Yes, please.
Well, I think it doesn't. That, as you noticed, I didn't mention it. It doesn't even come into my thoughts.
Womp womp.
All our hop heads, they're going to be so concerned.
Yeah, right. And no, I think that for us is just, I get it. I get why people enjoy overly, what I would consider to be overly fruited beers, or beers that I think don't traditionally have lactose in it. For me, the only beer that has lactose in it, at least that we do, would be a milk stout. But those are beers. I know why we do it. I also know why there's sugar in your hamburger rolls, right? McDonald's has made an incredible hamburger roll, and they use a lot of sugar in it. And so, sure, why wouldn't brewers say, let's put lactose in a beer?
Yeah.
It's going to leave that residual sugar, and our palates like that.
Yeah.
However, I think it masks, for me, in the beers that we brew,
The real flavor
it
there.
masks what the beer is, and I think it takes it into it becomes a different beverage for me in many ways.
Yeah. You can't hide behind a Pilsner or a lager.
That's right.
If it sucks, it sucks.
Yeah.
I'll say it. You don't have to.
John is very polite.
If you're a natural educator, I mean, I feel like I can sense that your passion to
Education.
yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
To teach others. How does apprenticeship work here, or passing your knowledge forward to other brewers?
Well, we've been blessed. We've had a lot of really talented folks join our ranks over the years, and we've had a lot really willing learners to join our ranks. So I would say, if I look at our staff right now, one of the things that we heard from them in recent weeks and months were, hey, give us more information. I think we're blessed with people who are ready to learn. In terms of passing it on, I have a fantastic working relationship with our head brewer, Chris Depot, and he has a real passion for his staff in terms of teaching as well. So I think I've naturally gravitated toward people who are A, interested in learning, and B, also interested in passing on their knowledge and really paying that forward. I think it's important that we have a very educated group of people working in our brewery. I want, it's real easy to learn how to turn this valve or this valve. It's much more of a task to understand what it is.
Why you're doing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And and we've said it over time, and something that I've tried to live out in who I am as a brewer is to really strive for that next level. And so I've challenged our staff, Chris, first and foremost, to get involved academically, and he's done that. And I've been blessed to have opportunities to publish over the last years, and also speak at different symposia, some of them in Germany, and spoke at CBC a few years ago. And so that's been a challenge that we've, I think, implicitly issued for our staff.
Yeah.
Great conversation so far, but we'll be right back from a quick break.
This week's episode would not be possible without our amazing sponsor, Shirts on Tap.
Each month, they team up with breweries from across the country and create a custom shirt and deliver it to your doorstep, along with stickers and coupons.
Sign up today using the promo code Brew Roots for $5 off your first box.
Head on over to shirtsontap.com today. And remember, drink better beer, wear better shirts.
Hey, Sound Guy Ryan here. Didn't know if you heard, but we're a part of the Hopped Up Network. There you'll find other informative podcasts about beer. So go ahead, follow them on social media, and visit them on their website, hoppedupnetwork.com, to learn more about the people, beer, and breweries from around the country. And until next time, thanks for listening. Cheers. And now back to the interview.
Switching gears real quick, let's talk about marketing. What's worked, what hasn't worked. What's it like marketing beer?
Or marketing not hoppy IPA beer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, let me send some kudos to Sarah Bryan, our VP.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, she's done a phenomenal job on that task. Prior to this year, I was doing the social media. You'll notice a dramatic uptick.
Yep.
She's a natural. So I think in all of our marketing, one of the tricks is communicating who we are. We want to communicate our identity, the attitudes, the values, and the beliefs that we foster as a brewery. That needs to come out in the nature of the graphic. It needs to come out in the text. It needs to show people. They need to be able to feel who we are. And I always want to be able to convey emotion, especially at pivotal points in our marketing material. We never purchase marketing. That's been something where we decided that long ago. We wanted an organic approach
natural.
that it really effectively conveyed where we are, conveyed our sense of place. We count on word of mouth a great deal. It carries a lot of weight in the North Country.
Yep.
That's something we rely on. And so over time, and I think you alluded to this earlier, there are a lot of people that really maybe haven't known about us, and that's fine. Word getting out takes time.
Yeah.
We'll help with that.
We know that, yeah. Why are people grabbing Schilling in package stores across Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Washington, Virginia, New York, Rhode Island, all the states? I think there's a couple more that I haven't mentioned.
Sure.
Why are people grabbing it over the Hazy Boys right now?
Why are they grabbing it? I think there's a drinking experience that John alluded to when we talk about why we brew lagers in the first place. We talk about developing conversation, developing relationships over a product that's exceptional but doesn't wreck the palate, that calls for more, that pairs well with food, that pairs well with polite society. And I think stringing all of that together is very important for us. And so we try to do that in a nuanced way. We try to do it, and you see that in the styles that we're producing. Yep. So many of John's brain children come out there. They look different from each other, but in so many ways, only someone with a pretty sophisticated lager palate is going to pick out those distinctions.
Yeah.
And that reflects both our regional inspiration across Europe. It reflects John and Chris's ingenuity, but it's also reflective of our diversity to this, our interest in furthering this process.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and we want that available to people.
I think, and I agree with everything you're saying. I think the reason people are grabbing your cans is because your cans make no bones about what's in the liquid that's in there. Mm-hmm. So when you read the can, it's what you're getting.
It's Schilling. It's a lager.
So I think that's a lot of attribution to the brand that you guys have built so far. So I applaud you guys for doing that.
Thank
because
you. Yeah.
there are a lot of cans on the market and people we've interviewed before that do not deliver on distribution wise. And I feel like beer I've had here is just as good as the beer I'll get in a can. And that's a hard thing to do. So
that means
kudos.
A ton to us.
Yeah, it does mean a ton, and,
Yeah.
and that speaks volumes of our staff and their commitment to doing things the right way each and every day. Putting beer in a small package is a challenge.
Yeah.
For sure.
It really is, and we know that in some of our markets, small places get our small format, and move through rate we'd like to think is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Occasionally stuff sits, and so we have in mind our worst case scenarios of how long a small package could sit out there, and we really work toward having low dissolved oxygen levels in those formats.
But we're also working with distributors who really tend to police.
Yeah, it's
No,
absolutely
their
that.
stuff.
That's such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're fortunate because a lot of the stuff that we're sending to some of the locations that you intimated, the sell-through rate is pretty substantial, and so that's it feels good. It doesn't feel as good that we can't supply those markets as much as we would like.
Right.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. It could be worse, right?
Yeah, no, it is, but there's a huge amount of credit due, as John mentioned, to our production staff.
So I'd like to get to the point where we kind of talk about what you feel comfortable letting us know what's next for you guys.
let's start with the wild beer program.
Yeah, no, I think so. We, so Chris Depot, we brought on originally as our head blender. We had the vision of launching a mixed culture program that would be robust and authentic and, again, I think fit right within the Schilling model of being balanced and well formulated and nuanced, and it didn't have to be the
big fruit bombs or something.
Right.
we were
Or
talking
Hampshire's
earlier.
missing.
Right. or the total acid or the pH didn't
Yeah.
have to be the lowest out there. It just
Right.
had to be something that people would enjoy. And we found in Chris a real artist. I mean, Chris is I think that's the best way to describe him. He's a technician. He's a microbiologist, but he's really an artist, and he's fantastic at what he does. And when we picked him up, we brought him in, and clearly we thought that he was good enough that we wanted him really at the helm as head brewer, and not just as head blender. But we brought him in and then elevated him in his work. But that's something that we see going forward. We intentionally built a space for that. We're right on the river. The lower level of the new brewery has river-facing windows, and we put those in very intentionally to have cool shipping.
Cool.
And so we have a cool ship.
You'll taste some shortly.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yes. Very
I'm
exciting.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
Our beer nerds will kill us if we
Freak
don't ask
out.
this. What are you guys brewing on?
What we're brewing on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 5-vessel Newlands system. We were really, really fortunate before Newlands had challenges and had to temporarily close their doors. They design built our 5-vessel brew house, and was really a dream for me to something we envisioned in 2013. Weren't able to, of course, start with. Again, we're closely held in a very small ownership group, but we, I think from the get-go, we knew what our commitment to decocted lagers was, and still is, and so anyway, our brew house is built around that. So we have dedicated mash mixer.
20 barrels.
Yeah,
20
20
barrels.
20 barrel system. Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
That's the number we're looking for.
Yeah. 20 barrel system with the ability to, our throughput is really quite good. So if batch one is a 6.5, 7 hour beer, we're knocking out the second batch 2 to 2.5 hours later.
Great.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, and the tech on it is fantastic. It's obviously decoction capable, and we have dedicated lauter, dedicated whirlpool, German style whirlpool, so not coned, but vertically dished upward. So yeah, it's a
That's
joy.
cool. You can do whatever you want on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a joy to brew on. Honestly, I mean, I think every brewer we've had who's come from elsewhere has said, "Wow, this is a joy to brew on."
I can imagine.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, so for the home brewers out there, it's a, I've done the ribs, the rims, and the brew in a bag and all
Yep,
that stuff.
yep.
So yeah, doing this is a different world, and it's a lot
Very
of fun.
cool. Very cool.
I can say without hesitation, the beer that you're making on our system now
Is it better than before?
it's better than the yellow bucket system you had at Purdue in 1996, John.
It's awesome to see that you guys maintain friendship over how many years.
The business didn't, break things up
Yeah.
for you guys, so that's pretty
It's
cool.
Some of the rules of working should not work with your friends, your wife, or
Right,
significant
right.
others, and you're kind of
Check all of those
Yeah,
boxes,
yeah.
all of them.
And somehow you made it work, so that's really
Right.
cool.
What are you guys doing to make it work?
I think we differentiate.
Drink beer.
Well, we drink beer. I think we've developed, including Stu and Matt, my two other brothers in this. We've developed a really open and honest system of conversation.
Yeah.
Nothing is perfect. We all, have spits and spats with each other over time,
Of
but
course.
you just be honest with each other. You screw up, you call the person on it, and then you rectify it. And
It's
then you
Fail
move
fast,
forward.
recover quickly.
It's it's just commitment.
It's a
I think
commitment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
It is. And we went into this knowing that we would never let our business wreck our friendship. And so, and
Yeah.
that was a really important thing for us. And I think that having so many different disciplines within a business. I mean, you need different people with the different skill sets to make a business work. Being able to specify who does what and try to stay out of each other's way as much as we can during those periods. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard when you all own a business,
Right.
But when you're working in the business as well, you want to make sure you're not replicating efforts.
Yeah,
and that
of
can be
course.
hard. So I think we've done we haven't done a perfect job on that.
Seems like
but
they're
we've-
all right, though.
But we've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am curious, what's in your respected fridges at home?
Alexander 10 is in my fridge right now, which is
Yeah.
our Czech Pils,
Cool.
and I drink it
Nice.
regularly.
All right.
And you guys are drinking it, so I brought home Rüdiger,
And
which
there
is
it
our Helles, and
Wonderful.
and then also
I'll pass these down.
Chris Depot conceived of a fantastic winter saison that I've got in my fridge right now, Glacial, and I'll be honest, I typically
Cheers.
I taste through tanks. Cheers.
What are we drinking here? We're drinking right now too.
We are, yes.
What is this, Sarah?
Alpinista.
Birra Alpinista.
Nice.
So Italian pills.
Smells
This is the one I think Brian and I were most
excited about. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it posted on Instagram. I'm like, yep, it better be there. If it's not, I'll be sad.
Yeah. Oh, it's delicious.
But
Nice and
the
clean.
yeah, I rarely grab for a dippa. Again, I drink between 4% and 5% beers. But we have a dip on right now that April Morovich designed for us, and it's called Fringe, and it's a rye double IPA, and
nice.
it's gorgeous. It's juicy, but it's got complexity. It's spicy, and so that's in my fridge too.
So I'm going to be very transparent. I'm a huge lager drinker.
Yes. Weird.
And, yeah, it's strange. But I actually consumed a 4-pack of Fringe last Saturday.
Wow.
I
and how
acknowledge
do you
that.
feel?
I feel great now.
Good, good.
You feel great now, but how did you feel at the time?
I feel great, and I will say that April has really taken our resilience project to another level.
That's awesome.
And we are extremely proud of that. And
Yeah.
that's coming from lager guys, unquestionably. Stu, our other business partner who just showed his face here, I think he was coming in for a beer. I'm not sure where he went, but he is a
Pied Piper.
he's
Right.
actually
I saw beers going by.
yeah, we keep him in the trunk a little bit, but he's the huge hophead of the ownership group,
Yep.
and he is a regular connoisseur of comb over, of Pony Hawk,
Yes.
and of Fringe, and we're continuing to, as you know, John talked about the wild beer program. We're really continuing to develop the innovation on the hop schedules on our resilience products as well.
I just think a feather in your cap again is being able to have that same commitment to styles that you don't care about, but that are lesser favorites of yours, and still execute them excellently and keep that commitment.
Yeah. You're not just doing them just to do them, just so you can get those hop heads here.
We would never, and this is the thing, because all of us stand behind the beers that are a reflection of us.
Yeah.
And it's very important. If there's one thing that I could convey to your listeners, it's that when you're drinking a beer that we make, you're drinking something that is very much part of our passion. This is where we're coming from. And so everything you see in the market, everything you see coming off of our tap wall, it's a reflection of us. We take it very personally. And that doesn't mean that we're not willing to listen to criticism or feedback or anything else. But being excellent at what we do is one of our values as a company. And if we're not making a world-class product, we're doing something wrong. And that doesn't matter whether it's a 3.8% Czech Pils, which a petite Pils, which is coming out in the next quarter, or if it's a 9% double IPA on the resilience line. It needs to meet our standards. And
Sure.
I would encourage brewers that are just starting out to enter the market with that attitude, because that will sustain your business. Full stop.
Mic drop.
Yeah, no, seriously. Oh my gosh. I think we heard Rob Todd say a very similar thing to that too. So.
Rob is a great guy, so listen to him.
Yes.
Well,
That's
and
awesome.
it is. I think that's worth emphasizing. Even a step further is to say, we all read an article here in house the other day on on hype beers, and I would also encourage brewers to brew to their passion and also not be afraid to brew what people might consider to be sort of old outdated beers. Those beers have been vetted for a really long time, and there's a reason why they still have a place in today's market. And I'm preaching to the choir. I think most of the brewers who are listening go, yeah. We get that. We like those beers, and we love those. We love trying to brew those beers. But I think as you enter the market, I think you don't need to feel like you need to brew what everybody wants. You need to brew what you love, and you need to do it
Passion
well.
will show through, I think, as
agreed.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess our most important question for you guys is, where are you physically located, and what are some states that we can get your product, our listeners?
Sure.
in?
So New Hampshire is pretty much the only place, or one of the few places you're going to see any resilience beers. We want to keep our hoppy products as close to home as possible. And so once in a while,
So
you'll
to maintain just the integrity
the
of the
freshness,
beer.
the integrity
Actually,
of the product.
really not a bad idea.
So
Probably smart, yeah.
So I mean, it's soul crushing to see things that you've worked on so
Yes.
diligently sitting on on a shelf somewhere. And our policy is that all of our beers obviously should be refrigerated, especially those styles. So you'll see resilience products close to home. Schilling, you will see in Vermont, obviously New Hampshire, and I will just say that most of you're seeing only about, I would say, 40% of the beers that we produce out in distribution. The vast majority of the styles that we make are only sold here at Schilling. Our wild beers are almost exclusively sold here. Many of our experimental lagers are only available here, whether that's in package format or off the wall. But certainly New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Michigan,
New York.
Yeah, New York City.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We just launched in New York City.
Yeah. Any plans for Philly? I know that market is a market that if you can make it in
huge.
Philly, you can.
Right.
Yeah.
It's our distributor in New York City, Serene, who they're doing a phenomenal job for us in the city. They do distribute to Philly. We don't have enough beer to do that right now.
I feel like that's usually the issue, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure
Yeah.
that we can fulfill the commitments that we have to those
For sure.
markets right now. And honestly, that's a challenge for us, especially as we get into the summer season. And
Oh yeah.
so
course.
many of our sales are just on site.
I was going to say,
and it's
actually,
important to feed the mouths that.
Yeah,
Right.
do you
Yeah.
find
Oh, yeah.
that your beers sell more in the summer season because you brew, the nice, crisp, clean beers?
So, there is nothing better for either of us than walking in to Schilling and seeing our beer garden and both of our decks full of people
Right.
drinking a Weiss beer or drinking one of our lagers. So that really warms the soul.
Yeah.
And that's the experience we're looking for here on the river.
Yeah.
And so we sell a ton of beer in the summer.
I bet. That's awesome.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Absolutely. And social media, where are you guys?
So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, all the usual spots.
Cool.
So really encourage you to look us up on Instagram. That's where you're going to see a lot of the most pertinent,
fun stuff.
yeah, all the fun stuff, the release information at Schilling Beer.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's how we knew about this wonderful beer.
Awesome about everything.
Yeah.
Because Ryan's obsessed.
Yes.
Or whatever.
And then our last question. You want to ask?
Yeah. So we always like to end on what are you most proud of? And that's as vague as you want it to be.
Yeah, I would speak to that. I would say I'm most proud of starting a business from the ground up. Again, we, with the exception of Stu, who has a degree in finance, none of us were business people to coming into this.
Yeah.
And we see our employee base, which is yearly with all of our operations around 75, and it swells
That's
to
awesome.
100.
Wow.
Yeah, it
That's
swells to
awesome.
100 in the middle of summer, and I take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah.
That we are a fairly major employer in
This
the
area,
in the North Country. Yeah, I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud that we stuck to our guns with our commitment to our quality, and we didn't deviate from that. So that for me, those are the two things.
Yeah, I think the fact that we've started from nothing.
I mean, it's
and
huge.
It is huge, but
Pretty cool.
John alluded to in that last part the fact that we've been able to run our business commensurate with our values. We produce something that we're extremely proud of in all of our beer styles, but we're also we have a staff that truly treats each other like family, which is another one of our values.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And it's an amazing place to come to work every day when you see people collaborating and you feel it. It's one thing just to pay lip service to that, but when you come in and you see it and you see we have such an intensely loyal staff that I don't even know how to begin thanking them. And so that's an amazing feeling. And, you know, I don't know that it will be, I mean, I may be kind of retired in a director seat someday before I fully appreciate Schilling in this experience.
Yeah.
And it's really been an amazing ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was good.
That was
Wow.
awesome.
I got the chills.
Yeah, that's a great way to end this. So thank you guys for doing this. We really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
We're honored.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got you out on time too. This isn't even the best part. So we got to finish this beer though first. So you guys don't want to hear that conversation. So
Until next time.
until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Well, thank you guys for making it this far. And you know what happens when you make it this far?
You win a prize?
Nope.
Oh. What do?
You find out who we have next week?
But I don't even know that.
Me neither.
Oh, well,
But you know how you could find out? Because we are totally unprepared for our next week's guest.
is you can follow us on social media at Brew Roots at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
That's right. And we're also on TikTok, Ryan's favorite medium. He's so good at all the TikTok dances. It's crazy.
I haven't done one. He's lying.
He's done them all. Well, we'll catch you guys next week. And yeah, until next week.
Cheers.